We are from Group B-5, consisting of me, Maria, Hake, Shakila, Yasmin, and also Safarina. So we'll be presenting to you on the topic project planning regarding the schedule and the budget. In this topic, we'll cover on how to develop a Gantt chart, develop a project network, identify a project's critical path, develop a PERT diagram, describe the concept of precedence diagram, identify the activity relationships, describe the concept of CCPM, describe the various types of cost, and also define the baseline for the project plan. And budget development. How do you determine a project schedule and budget is from the WBS, which is the work breakdown structure. So the schedule and budget can be determined from the task and time estimated for the task. As for the budget, plus the cost of resources. So after we get the schedule and budget, we still need to do iterations because these two might be implicitly defined. Thus, our objective is to create a realistic project schedule and budget. This is the project planning framework. We're moving on from the MOV to the scope, to the phase, to the task, and then we will get the sequence, resource, and time estimate. And from all these three, we'll get the schedule and also the budget. To develop the project schedule, we'll be using the project management tools, consist of the Gantt chart and also project network diagram. And the project network diagram has 4, which is the activity on the node, critical path analysis, the PERT diagram, and also the precedence diagram. As you can see here, this is what a Gantt chart looks like. We have task on the y-axis and time frame on the x-axis, could be month or maybe days. Let's say it is days. So task A takes about 4 days to get completed, and here at maybe the 10th, between the 9th and 10th, there is a diamond, and this diamond is called the milestone. Milestone is the date where you have to take note. Perhaps maybe this is the date that you have to present the project. In this example, you can see this vertical line over here. It stands for the current date. So the interpretation would be, today is the 9th day and tomorrow we will be presenting the project, and only task A, B, and C is done, and task D and E has yet to start. Moving on to the project networking diagram, we have activity analysis for the activity on the node diagram. Activity analysis is the examination of processes or maybe tasks that we have to take to complete the project. So as you can see here in this list, there are activity, description, estimated duration, and also predecessor, which means which tasks have to be completed first before the current task. On the node diagram, we first have to determine which activity is the first one. As you can see here, it is the activity A because activity A has no predecessor. And then after activity A, it will be activity B because the predecessor for B is A. So it goes like this, A, then we can do B. After we're done with B, we can do C, D, and E. And after we're done with C and D, we can do F. And after we're done with D and E, we can get G. After that, after F and G is H. After G is I. And after H and I is J. And that's how you draw it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Next is about critical path. Critical path is the longer path that will indicate minimum time for a project to finish and also have zero total slack. Why do we need critical path? Critical path is used to estimate the total duration for a project so that we can manage our time to complete the project successfully. Second reason is to avoid chaos management. This happens when there is no time management for the project so that everyone can stay on track and always getting the updated source. There is several ways we can find critical path. First is using chart such as PERT chart, Gantt chart, and activity on the nodes. We also can do by using online template for critical path. in Capterra and MS project. Here is one example on how to find critical path. First is to find every possible path. In this case, we have 4 different paths. Next is to calculate total time for every path. The highest time duration is the critical path. For this example, path 2 is the critical path since it has the highest total among other paths. Critical path need to be monitored and managed because some project manager can expedite or crash by adding resource. This happens when there is change during the project on process. High precaution needed when we want to add the new resource. If not carefully, it will affect project due date. Fast tracking is to ensure every activity are running in sequence as planned. Running activity in parallel could lead to missing updated resource. The critical path can change over time due to unexpected event occur, such as pandemic, where worker had slowed down the project process and affect the project progress. Last is multiple critical path can emerge when there is change in activity time.
Assalamualaikum. Hello, my name is Shakila. So today I would like to talk about the PERT. So what is exactly is PERT is? PERT is a program evaluation and review technique, and PERT was developed in 1950 to help manage the Polaris submarine project. It was developed about the same time as the critical path method and employed both a project network diagram with a statistical distribution. So, as you can see here, is the activity analysis for PERT. This table contains activity, optimistic estimate, they are equal to A, most likely estimate equal to B, and pessimistic estimate equal to C, and expected duration with formula of A plus 4B plus C divided by 6. So here is example to calculate the expected duration for activity A. The optimistic estimate is equal to 1 and most likely estimate equal to 2 and pessimistic estimate equal to 4. Sub the number inside the expected duration formula and the answer will be 2.2. So for the possible per activity paths, first we calculate the expected duration to determine each possible path total value. Thus, the path with the highest value is called the critical path.
Hi, my name is Nur Yasmin binti Muhammad Kahar and I'm going to present about precedent diagramming method. So what is precedent diagramming method? So it is a graphical tool used for scheduling activities in a project plan. So the primary output of PDM is a project schedule network diagram. So it has 4 fundamental relationships, which is the first one is finish to start. So in this case, task B cannot start until task A has been completed. So the second one is start to start. In this case, task B cannot start until task A start. The third one is finish to finish. In this case, task A cannot complete until task B is complete. And the fourth one is start to finish. So in this case, task B cannot complete until task A start. Moving forward to lead and lag time. So both used in the development of project schedule. So what is lead? Lead is the starting of the next task before the first task is complete. Assuming that the time duration for the first activity is 20 days and the second activity is 15 days. So the first activity on its 15th day and you have start the second activity. Remember that the first activity still have 5 days to be finished. So the lead time is 5 days. As for the lag, is the adding of the buffer of the time before the next activity begins. Assuming the duration of the first activity is 3 days and 2 days for the second activity. After completing the first activity, you wait for 1 day and then you start with the second activity. Remember, you start a second activity 1 day after completing the first activity. So we can say that the lag time is 1 day. Furthermore, there is a critical chain project management. So it was introduced in 1997 in a book called Critical Chain by Eliyahu Goldratt, based on his previous work called The Theory of Constraint. So what is CCPM? So CCPM is a project management style that takes into consideration not only the task but also the resource required to complete a project. So the goal of CCPM is to identify the step, timeline, and resource to complete a project. Other than that, CCPM relies on buffer to ensure that the chain does not break and tasks are completed to ensure on-time delivery. So instead of adding safety to each task, put the safety in the form of buffer where it is needed most in feeding buffer, resource buffer, and also end of project buffer. As you can see here, this is the project schedule with safety in each task. So in CCPM, the critical parts are similar, that takes more project portfolio views that require everyone to understand that each task has a 50% chance of being completed as scheduled. So about half of the tasks will be late. Instead of penalty for being late, bonus or other incentive for completing tasks early may be needed. Last but not least, a project management software tool. So a number of project management software tools are available to plan and track the progress of your project. However, having a fundamental understanding of this project management technique is important to make the most of these software tools.
Hi, my name is Nosarvina Saifi Al-Safi, and I'm going to present on the project budget. A project budget is the total projected cost needed to complete a project over a defined period of time. It's used to estimate what the cost of the project will be for every phase of the project. Creating a project budget is a critical part of the project planning process. The project budget will include such things as labor costs, material procurement costs, and operating costs. To meet all the financial needs of your project, a project budget must be created truly, not missing any aspect that requires funding. To do this, we've outlined 5 essential steps toward developing the project budget. The first one, we need to define what resources will be needed to perform the work. Simply put, project resources are the things needed to accomplish particular tasks in a project. These can be people, capital, materials, times, and tools. In other words, you cannot start any project without resources. Next, determine the quantity of resources that are needed. This will help with budgeting appropriately for all inputs required over a project duration. The third step is to define the cost of using each resource, as it is an important factor for businesses to consider when assessing the financial health. If a product cost of production is consistently higher than the profit it earns, the company may cease production to stay within budget. Then, calculate the cost of the activity or task. This will provide a more accurate method of product or service costing, leading to more accurate pricing decision. Lastly, ensure that the resources are level, that is not over-allocated. Over-allocation of resources leads to overwork, which can be overwhelming for team members. Resource leveling prevents this by resolving over-allocation issues and adjusting deadlines to ensure team members don't have too much on their plates. There are various types of costs in project planning. The first one is direct costs, which include fixed labor or other resources such as materials and equipment. Second one is indirect costs, where the cost is for covering such things as rent, utilities, and insurance. Third one is sunk costs, where the costs incurred prior to the project, such as the project has been restarted after a failed attempt. Then, the learning curve. Often, we have to build one and throw it away in order to understand a problem or use a new technology effectively. In addition, inexperienced people will make mistakes, and new technology will usually require a steep learning curve in the beginning. As a result, time and effort can be wasted. This learning time should be factored into the project timeline or budget. Next, prorated cost is a bill or invoice that is calculated based on the cost per day, or the proportion of the monthly service used. The idea that there is a cost associated with using a resource. Then the sixth one, reserve, where contingency funds to be used at the discretion of the project manager. After we're done with the schedule and budget planning, we need to finalize the project schedule and budget. The project schedule and budget may require several iterations before it is acceptable to the sponsor, the project manager, and the project team. Resource allocation is the process of assigning and managing assets in a manner that supports an organization's strategic planning goals. Project manager review project to make sure resources are properly allocated and not over allocated. Once the project schedule and project plan are accepted, the project plan become baseline plan. A project baseline essentially a defined starting point for your project. Once accepted, the project manager and project team have authorities to execute or carry out the plan and can have a kickoff meeting.